Hello and welcome. This is The Thing About Cars, recording as always in Strongbox West in beautiful Atlanta, Georgia. We have an actually unusually sunny day today after the 40 days and 40 nights of rain we've just come through. Around the table, we've got
Ben,
Becca,
other Becca,
and other Becca. So we have four folks, and just want to take care of some quick business before we jump into our topics list today, and that is to say your 5-star ratings, yours, you, the listener. Thank you for doing that. We love it when we get rated on iTunes and Spotify. Your ratings go a long way towards making The Thing About Cars appear in more searches, and it helps us reach wider audiences. So if you haven't left us a rating, please do. If you have feedback for us, please visit the website, thingaboutcars.com, click Contact Us, and let us know what you think we should be doing with the show. So let's just jump right into our topics list for the day. One of the first things we have is, I'm not even going to jump into that. I want to do a bit of trivia first.
that's right.
trivia.
So,
Grand Trivia Auto.
Grand Trivia Auto. I've got two questions. And I know Ben's got some trivia in mind, which we may do this episode or the next one. So this one's for the listeners. This one isn't even for the table. For the listeners, I have a statement that says, in 1974, the average American family spent 33% of their yearly income for a new car. In 1995, the average was 50%. Is that true? Can someone out there help corroborate that for us? And if it is true, what's it now? What is it now? How much does the average American family spend on their car in terms of percentage of their yearly income? So we will look forward to your responses for that. Please send us your answer via our Facebook page or via our webpage. There is no consolation prize at this moment, but we may come up with something.
Yeah. But it's not going to be half our income.
And it's not going to be half our income.
No.
But 50%. Can you imagine spending 50% of your income on your car?
Yeah.
And is that adjusted for inflation? I mean, I would imagine.
Well, income had inflation as well, but now we've got auto loans, plus, we buy bigger, more expensive cars. I'm deliberately not using the word better, but I can easily see that because people have $400, $500 car payments, and we're talking normal cars, not top of the line BMWs or anything sometimes.
Well, at very least here in the U.S., we're such a credit society. Everyone
exactly
does all the credit everything.
It's a crime, really, if you ask me.
Yes.
The whole credit thing is completely overblown, and
especially when you talk about student loans.
Yeah.
That's a different topic.
that's a completely different topic.
But as far as car payments, if you go in somewhere saying, I'm looking to spend this much money, if they ask you, what do you want your monthly payment to be? Don't answer that question.
Right. No, never answer that question.
Never answer that question.
And speaking of which, we have a friend that we're talking to via Reddit, a gentleman who's retired after being in the car sales industry for 40-something years. And I think he's got some pretty interesting tips to share with us. So he will either be doing a recurring segment with us, or we may actually try to figure out how to get him in on these conversations and patch him in through the board and do the recording with all of us.
That's going to be fun, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of my information I had gotten from an ex who did used car sales, and I've tried to get him on here, and since then he's moved away also. But there's a lot of good information. Just a lot of people don't want to answer the question if they feel that they're too out there or something. They're going to hurt their own.
Well, this guy I met only because he wrote this long thing about, basically how to master the car finance equation. And I'm thinking, this is good advice. People need to hear this. So we'll be talking with him again. Okay. Our Grand Trivia Auto question for the day is, and the first one's really simple. We may just do a couple of them. And I know Ben's got one. So I'll do mine first, and then Ben, if you want to do yours, just because this one's such a simple answer. When was the first documented car accident? Was it 1891, 1901, 1911, or 1921? This one's very simple, so we'll just answer it right now, and then Ben can ask his, and we'll answer it at the end of the episode as usual. But what do you think? When was the first documented car accident? 1891, 1901, 1911, or 1921? Becca, you got a guess?
I'm going to go with 1901.
1901?
There's a really funny video clip, I don't know, of some silly pre-car accident type thing. So I'm just going with as old as I can go, except for the 18.
Except for the 1891. What do you think, Becca?
I don't know. History is not my strong point. I'll go older. I'll go 1891.
1891. Ben?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to run with too, because, I mean, whenever we invent something, we pretty much quickly follow up with how to misuse it. So,
yeah.
Yes.
That's kind of where I'm thinking.
Exactly.
So I didn't go too old. Everybody was going even older than me.
Yeah.
and just learning curves in general. I
Exactly.
mean,
Yeah.
We have this new thing. Let's see how quickly we can wreck it.
Yeah, we always have a way of finding how to hurt ourselves with whatever we've made.
So the answer. In 1891, engineer James Lambert was driving one of his inventions, an early gasoline-powered buggy, when he ran into a little trouble. The buggy, also carrying passenger James Swoveland, hit a tree root sticking out of the ground. Lambert lost control, and the whole vehicle swerved and crashed into a hitching post. Both men suffered minor injuries.
I didn't go old enough.
I'm sure they were going like 3 miles
I'm
an
sure,
hour.
but they hit a
Yeah.
tree root.
Yeah.
A tree root to a modern vehicle is nothing.
Yeah, how high was that tree
Yeah.
root? Kind of.
Exactly. But, in those days, it probably, early buggy death wobble happened, and they ran
Right.
off the
If they were
road.
walking, they would have tripped over it.
So it would have been on bicycle wheels, and nobody had any concept of suspension geometry or
Right.
anything. It just,
Maybe they hadn't
something
had
that
their
rolled.
eyes
Yeah.
checked recently. Yeah.
So, Ben,
Yeah, this one's a little tougher. Okay, so what racing driver won both the Formula One World Championship and the Indy 500 in the same year, 1965?
1965.
Was it Graham Hill, Jim Clark, Parnelli Jones, or Mario Andretti?
Both the Indy and the what?
And the Formula One World
And
Championship.
the Formula One World Championship in 1965.
Yeah.
I'm going with Parnelli Jones just because I'm biased.
Just because you're biased.
Yes.
Where's the bias in Parnelli Jones?
Really? You don't know?
No. Parnelli?
Mustang affiliation.
Oh, I see. I-
Andretti again. History, totally not my strong point.
okay, so
I did watch Ford versus Ferrari though. That was my little bit of
I haven't
historical.
watched that yet.
It's really
You need to
good.
watch
Oh
it.
my god, it's
Nikki
really good.
had
To
told
watch
me.
it, yes.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah,
good.
yeah.
I saw it in
All
the
right.
theater and I was just like hooting and hollering the whole damn time.
So Becca has answered Andretti, and Becca has answered Parnelli.
Yes.
And I'm going to say, what are my other choices?
Graham Hill and Jim Clark.
Ooh. I honestly have no educated guess on this matter, right? It's just a blind guess. So let's, for variety's sake, I'll say Graham Hill.
Okay, yeah, we'll come back to this later, and we will find out.
At the end of the episode, we'll get Ben's answer. So how much time we got left?
12:20.
12 minutes. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, and this is this is kind of funny. A friend of mine said, he wrote on Facebook, he said, "It's been an expensive day. The truck would not start this morning and nothing worked electrically. It's a 2014 truck with the original battery in it, which means it's a bad battery. So that's a 6-year-old battery?
Not
Yeah.
necessarily. I've had older batteries, so
Me too.
don't say
He
it's
says-
the culprit immediately.
Well, he knows his stuff. This is
Yeah.
the guy who knows his stuff. John says he bought a new battery for $157. He installed it and nothing happened. He called the insurance roadside repair to have it towed back to the dealer. The tow cost $147 since it's over 20 miles. The dealer calls 3 hours later to tell me I did not remove the black plastic cap on the negative terminal.
Oh,
I saw that coming.
ouch.
I'm wondering
Don't do
how
that. That's very bad.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was clapping and making a lot of noise. I was holding my hands away from the mic,
Yeah.
but
I'm wondering how he fit the terminal over that cap.
I wonder too.
people do it all the time. Oh my God. it's one of those that the pictures are showing up on the internet everywhere.
Oh,
My
wow.
friend has sent me some. I don't know if Max has ever sent you any.
No.
It's
None of
right
that.
up there with the Gatorade bottle stuck under the seat as the cause of that sound you keep hearing. It's he sends me stuff he'd find. So yeah.
So, which begs the question: it's like when you're working on your car. I know that there's some rules that we tend not to pay attention to. Like when you're jumping a car, there is an order of events, right? You have to
Yes.
do one before the other.
And most people
Yeah.
get it wrong.
What is the correct order?
I always Google it at the moment I need to jump any car, whether it's mine or somebody else's. I literally always pull it up on Google because I'm super dyslexic. So, black, red, black. I'm like,
No.
wait, which one's the
Well,
grounding?
that's the thing. I'm so worried about the color matching that I forget about the order, right?
And
It's
some-
Well, and then
cars-
my problem is always where exactly am I grounding it?
Mhm.
That's the first thing I was going to go for. Not all cars you want to ground to the battery.
Mhm.
You just have to know which car yours is.
It's like where on the car frame do I grab it? But I always Google it so that I have it right there in front of me, telling me which order to do.
Right. But
Well,
it's always the red first. So it's the positive on the dead car to the positive on the running car, then the negative on the dead car, then the negative on the running car, I believe, is the order that you're supposed to go.
That sounds about right. The most important thing being that last one to be connected needs to not be on the battery so you don't spark it in case there's any hydrogen floating around the battery still.
Well, the thing I try to explain to my kids is that if you have it hooked to the positive, it's like being in a room. If the door isn't open, you've got nowhere to go.
Right.
That black one is the ground. It's an open door. So even if the positive isn't connected, if there's any electrical charge roaming around in there, as soon as you connect that, you can spark it or zap yourself, what have you. So the positive always goes first and then the negative. So the red, then the black.
So that's correct. That is actually correct. Dummies. Dummies.com has how to jump your car for dummies or something. And it says
There's a dummies.com.
There's a dummies.com. And the funny
Awesome.
thing is step one on how to jump your car's battery. Step one is take out your jumper cables.
Wait.
Smart.
If
Very
it's for
smart.
dummies, shouldn't it be open trunk lid?
Right. Open the trunk, open the hood. So anyway, it says here, place both vehicles in park or neutral and shut off both ignitions. So you're not leaving one car running.
Correct. Yeah. I
And,
always do it on both
yeah.
unstarted. On both
Unstarted,
cars
so turn
turned
them
off.
both off. And then it says, as Becca has said, attach one of the red clips to the positive terminal of your dead battery, and then hit the positive side on the live battery, and then do the negative, the black clip on the dead battery. And here's what Ben is saying: attach the last black clip to the unpainted metal surface on your car that is not near the battery. So that last negative on the live battery does not get hooked to the battery itself for exactly that reason. And they say attach it to the frame or attach it to one of the supports under the hood somewhere. And that's how ideally you should jump your car. I confess I don't do this.
Oh, I always try to ground it somewhere near like the headlight or something. It's a little further away from the battery in my car.
That is safer. But what I'll do is I'll do exactly what they say not to do, which is to attach both batteries, both clips to the dead battery, both positive and negative, and then I'll walk over to the live battery and hit the positive one and then maybe ground the negative one. But sometimes I'll just go battery to battery.
But at the same time, like neither car is on at that moment
Right.
too. So
But
I guess that is
still-
negligible.
It's still a battery.
Yeah.
You still want to treat it as such, and just because it can't start your car doesn't mean that it's truly dead.
Right.
It's just a safety thing. You can also overwhelm one of the systems and cause further damage. It's remote, but it can happen.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
at least we now have the correct order. And while we're on the topic, the question came up recently: should you ever disconnect your battery while the car is running?
No.
Why?
Well, your car's using parts. I mean, I don't think it's going to damage anything, but your car is still using it while your car is running.
I mean, this has no longer anything to do with jumping, right? This has something to do with turning off your car when you can't turn it off any other way, or if you're trying to do something like a hard reset on your or
can't
something like that.
Turn it off any other way.
I've actually seen a car where the ignition was broken and there was no way to turn the car off without removing electricity to the
Really?
engine.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
that's
I just know that the electrical system in cars can be so finicky that I wouldn't want. The worst thing you will ever have to deal with in your life is a parasitic load.
Yeah.
And there are electrical problems, and then there are these things called gremlins. Okay. Have you heard of the phrase gremlin?
Only after you feed a mugwai after midnight.
yeah.
It was coined back, I think, World War II or something. It was electrical disturbances in the airplanes that they could never quite pin down because they jump. And worst thing you will ever deal with. So whatever you can do to not piss off your electrical system, that's why I jumped at the no.
Well, I think it depends on the car, too. Modern, sophisticated electronic systems, you may run into some issues. But, like my dad's old 1970 Plymouth, you can just do whatever you want with
You
that.
can do anything you want with it. But I think that's the point. Modern ECUs and the all the computer stuff that's going on within a car, that's a good way to screw up a
Tons
computer.
of body control modules.
Yeah.
Way too much going on in there computer-wise.
Well, yeah, I had to replace the battery in my Mazda a year or two ago, and I was told at the shop, you have to have us do it because the car cannot ever lose electrical supply during the battery swap for some reason.
Weird.
What happens when your
This is-
battery dies? Well, because there's still a charge in the battery. Sorry. Moving on.
Modern cars are like this. BMWs, I know, are the same way.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of cars need constant power for reasons I don't fully understand.
That's so strange. But and
All
again,
the
why would you
different
need your?
computer systems? Maybe
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
there.
maybe it's
Yeah.
memory preservation or something. I don't know.
I thought most of them had an internal battery that would last them a short period of time, like alarm clock kind of
You would think.
idea.
Right.
But
All right.
Might have something to do with airbag systems too.
Because hitting the reset button on those can be a pain.
I was going to say, do you disconnect the battery and all the airbags suddenly deploy?
No, but there's an airbag system reset button.
Yeah.
And a lot of cars aren't too picky, but I know there are some that are kind of picky.
Right. What if you're working on your car and you need to disconnect your battery? Should you disconnect the positive or the negative?
Negative.
Why?
Always. Well,
Yeah, because then you're eliminating the ground to everything.
That's right.
Unless it's a positive earth car like an old MG or something,
Right.
and then it's the other one. But
Well, I'll maintain the euphemism or whatever that I was going with before. It shuts all the doors.
Mhm.
So even
Yeah.
if there's a charge in there, it can't move around.
Right. It can't go anywhere.
Right. So
There's no way for the circuit to complete.
right. So if you've got the negative hooked and remove the positive, there still could be electrical charge either in the system or whatever component you're working in.
Right.
So removing the negative is essentially closing all the doors and nobody can leave any of the rooms.
And I've
is
heard
how I put
stories
it.
about people who were doing that. They were working on their cars and they would touch something that was hot, and then the tool that they were using would hit the frame, thereby completing the circuit. Now their
Oh,
tool
yes.
is hot.
Mhm.
yeah,
Right. So
Now, granted, you're working in, they consider it a 12-volt system. When you've got it fully charged and everything is working, you're up to 14.5. Theoretically, that's not going to really hurt you,
mhm.
but you don't really want to test it to find out if you're going to be one of the people that somehow gets
Well,
hurt by that.
it's not the volts that'll get you; it's the amps.
Yes.
It's the amps. That's
yeah,
what they say.
yeah.
Yes.
In fact, I can recall one time in high school when I had a bad starter solenoid in this Datsun I had, and I tried bridging its terminals with a pair of pliers to get the car started, and I basically melted one of the prongs of the pliers.
Oops.
So, I mean, that's a lot of juice.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good.
People do that a lot with air compressors as
Yeah.
well, trying to
Mhm.
jump that switch when the switch is bad. They try to jump it like that. It's pretty common for people to try to do that. So
And by melt, I'm not talking about a slow flow of red molten metal. I'm talking about like instant sparks and half my pliers is gone,
You made an
Wow.
arc welder.
pretty much.
Yeah. All right. Anything else about batteries?
Not over here.
nothing appropriate.
Well, Becca's the only person at the table I know who scored a brand new battery for right around $40, though.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
I found a place that's they're like the warehouse or the
Yeah.
wholesaler. That's the word I'm looking
Yeah.
for. Wholesaler here. Yeah. in
That's pretty
Atlanta.
cool.
Although it does depend on what kind of car you have. You know, the other batteries. I bought a couple batteries there, like gone for a friend or something, and they've been a little more, but still really reasonably priced.
So not my G8 one.
Well,
I don't know.
Becca, you used to work on your Civic a lot.
Yeah.
How's
And
the new Mazda working out?
It's needed a little bit of work, and actually, one of the topics I brought up that we might talk about is like this past winter with my regular day job. You know, I work 40 hours. I also work as a commercial makeup artist once in a while, and in December I needed to do some work on my car so I could pass emissions here in Georgia, and I needed the O2 sensor. I had already bought it. I knew the parts I needed. I knew what needed done. I just didn't have the dang time. So plus it's cold outside and I hate being cold.
Yes.
So I ended up finally just giving in and asking a friend for help, not just for me to help him do it, but just here's my car. Let me come back later. I'm going to go work on the computer and do, my job. But it was frustrating to me that, I have the know-how, I have the tools, I have the common sense, but I needed to remind myself that there's also common sense in you can't do all the dang things.
I
You
have
can't
the
do it all.
same internal struggle
So,
all the time. I even
yeah.
let Max change the oil on the Jeep one time
Yeah.
just because I had let it go for so long saying, I know how to do this. I can do it my dang self, but time and weather and everything else.
Uh-huh.
Same struggle
Just
going in
not
and asking.
convenient. Yeah. I've carried a bottle of brake fluid around in my car for
Mm.
a week now And I just set it in the cup holder, so when I get in today, it's sunny, it's nice out.
There you
I'll
go.
actually put it in.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wait.
But what I need to do is change the brakes, but I have those at
So
home.
where's it losing fluid?
It's just losing slowly because the brakes need change. It's very slow. Like,
Yeah.
it's been many months since I had to do it last, so. But the lights started to come on. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I should
But
put
that
some brake fluid in.
does raise the question: where does the average person say, "I don't have the time to do this," versus, I need to do this. Let me make some time to do it myself. Isn't that your question, or wasn't that? the
Well, I
original?
mean, theoretically I could have done this back in the summer when it was warm, and I don't mind being outside, but I do work a lot, and it's kind of a pain in the butt to get outside with all your tools, especially when you don't have a garage.
Yeah.
I'd be working
Oh,
on the side of the street at my apartment, or maybe if I'm lucky, nobody would be parked in the driveway. We have one driveway at my apartment for one car, so
That's why I wish there were garages where you could rent garage time.
Right.
yeah, like a we workspace kind of thing, but for your car.
I always think
Yeah.
of Darnell's from Christine.
Oh,
I mean, even though Darnell was not a pleasant man, the idea behind the shop he was running, and I have thought about that many times, that, come in and with the society now, sign a waiver.
so I was going to say
And-
Darnell was not a nice man. Do you think he just screwed it up for the rest of us?
No.
Right.
But I imagine it is insurance that stops that from being a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, quite a bit. Quite a bit. So that's why my first comment was waiver. But yeah, definitely. And I do have a garage, but obviously the Pontiac is clogging up one side. The other side, every
Well,
time I
like,
clean
what
it
if you
out,
need like a lift or something? What if you gotta get your car
there's
up?
so
or
many that I want to.
bigger
There-
equipment, then
Well, that's why I think that, in the rental agreement, there could be like a pro on site, and the pro gets to supervise certain things, maybe.
yeah, or like an
Right.
extra cost for
Yeah.
But if you use the
Plus
word
the supervision.
pro,
Yeah.
then that's a new legal avenue
Yeah.
right there, that if you are given bad advice,
waivers,
Yeah.
all the
Overly-
waivers, all the insurance.
Overly litigious society that we live in.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, yeah.
A similar model was actually how the Magliozzi brothers got their start.
No.
The infamous Tom and Ray Magliozzi, who were the hosts of Car Talk for many years, they tried to run a DIY garage, and it wasn't nearly as litigious a society back then, but they still ran into problems. One of the ones that kind of killed it for them was the customer who had a big old Lincoln that fell off a lift.
Yes, I heard about that. Which is why I wonder if you have and just end up with a lifeguard. Maybe not a pro, but maybe there's someone there who's
lifeguard, I like that.
supervising the lift, the use of the lift. Anyway, let's wrap this episode. Ben, what's the answer to our trivia question?
The answer is Jim Clark.
So I got it right.
He was a Scotsman.
Just on chance I got it.
Right. He. I thought you guessed Graham Hill.
Whatever.
You did.
I screwed up.
You did
there.
not get it right.
And it's a little bit
I
of
was
a
about to say we all got it wrong.
Yeah.
and it's a little bit of a tricky question because Graham Hill has also won both the Indy 500 and the Formula One World Championship, but he did not do it the same year. And like Clark, he won 2 Formula One championships. Now Andretti has won both as well, but in different years. Parnelli Jones is the weird one because he never drove Formula One.
Well, he did other races mostly.
Right. And you can get into all kinds of interesting rabbit holes about information about all 4 of these drivers. They're all really interesting guys. I highly recommend reading up on them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to check this out,
Oh, yeah.
considering I completely botched the answer. None of us got it right. I can't believe that.
Well, I mean, I think none of us have the geek factor on it.
Well, thank you. It's an excellent
Yeah.
trivia question. Anything else before we sign off? So thank you to our listeners for joining us this time. Thank you again for telling your friends about The Thing About Cars and getting them to subscribe. Again, we love it when we hear from you via the website or via their Facebook page. Thanks, as always, for rating us on iTunes or Spotify. And if you like what we do, support us via Patreon, patreon.com/thingaboutcars. That ensures we can do more of this bigger, better, stronger, faster. Thanks for your support. And we'll see you again with another episode in about a week. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Thing About Cars. We'll see you on the road.